Okay, let's create a new document in InDesign. Let's start from scratch and say we're creating that newsletter that you saw in the previous video. When you first start up InDesign, it should look something like this. And this little dialog box that pops up, it's just to help you out. You can see I have a newsletter. I have Mr. Pickle Menu Corporate that I've been working on in InDesign. You also can create new stuff or um, go to the resources page, kind of the help menu. This is just a shortcut menu to your file menu up here. It's pretty useful with stuff that you're working on or recent items you're working on, but I'm going to show you from scratch going from the file menu. It's similar, but I'm going to close this and I'm going to go up to file, go up to new, and then I'm going to do document. Okay, so everything we're going to create is going to be a new document. Now, you have a bunch of defaults. You can also create a custom. You can see how many pages it is. It's right here. So if you know you're going to have 5 pages in your newsletter, perfect, put 5 pages here. If you're not sure, it doesn't really matter because we're going to be able to add more pages at a later date. Now, facing pages, it's important to know if your pages are going to be folded, because what happens is if you have an 8.5 by 11, which is what we have here, right? Our page size down here is a letter, so the width is 8.5, the height is 11. If we have facing pages, this means we're going to print 11 by 17 and we're going to fold it in half. If we uncheck facing pages, it means we're just going to print 8.5 by 11 and it's going to be trimmed to 8.5 by 11. It's not going to be folded. So it's kind of confusing. I'm going to leave facing pages on and I'm going to put 3 just so we can see the different options here. We'll go through this twice just and show you 2 different documents so you can see what the options are. So I'm going to go page 3, or 3 pages facing. Master text frame, you could create just a text box in each of these pages. I normally don't want to do that. I'm normally setting up template pages and things like that that will take care of that for me. So normally I leave that unchecked. The nice thing about InDesign is they'll flip it for you, so they have a little nice orientation picture here. So if you need it actually 11 by 8.5, it's really easy to flip. Also, if you need a different preset, you can see these are all mostly print because InDesign's pretty much geared for print. But if you need like 11 by 17 or whatever size, you can create that size there. You can also say you're creating some sort of coupons or you're creating trading cards or something that's a unique size. That's 4 inches by 6 inches, and you're going to give that to a printing press. You can do that no problem, and it just changes to custom. So I'm going to change that back to letter just so that we can compare 2 of our options here. Okay, so columns, we're going to leave it 1 for now, and we'll show you what this is when we change the facing pages in the next document. So we're going to leave it at 1 now, and we're going to leave our margins alone. And I want to click this button. I always want to click more options, because here you have a bleed and what's called a slug. And a bleed is what we talked about in the last video, is that little extra all the way around your document, so that if you're cutting this and you're sending it to a printing press, that that gives them a little bit of area to cut off and not show a little white line. So most of the time, if you're actually setting this up to go to print, you're going to have a bleed. I'm going to say it's going to be 0.5 inches. A lot of times it's 0.25 inches. It's a quarter of an inch, or it's a lot less. But for us, for now, this is going to be fine. So you can see I could go down and put for the top, bottom, left, inside, and outside. I can make totally different a bleed area, but most of the time they're exactly the same. So we have that little chain link fence here, and that's telling us that as soon as I type in a number, it's going to type it into all for us. And slug we're not going to go over at this point just because we're going to concentrate on just those options. Okay, so I'm going to say OK. Let's see what we get. Okay, so we get a document. that has a bleed area. So this red line shows our bleed of a 1/2 inch, and then we have a safe area of a 1/2 inch. So we want most of our stuff to stay within this purplish color line, and then we'll have this nice 1/2 inch white border, and then this will be where our page ends. Okay, so if we go into preview down here and we go into that preview mode, you can see that's our page right there, that black line. So our safe area is this, is in 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go back to normal. Okay, so now let's go up and create another file. So let's go File, New, Document, and let's do 3 pages. And we didn't really see all 3 pages in the other one, but this will help us create another document that we can start talking about. Okay, so we had facing pages on a minute ago. Let's actually turn that off. So let's see what the difference is between facing pages. Now you notice when I turn that off, these options here, left and right, change from inside, outside, to left and right. Because there's no inside of the page, and I'll show you that in just a second. Just notice that those have changed, and we'll talk about why in a second. I'm going to leave this at 8.5 by 11. I'm going to change this from 1 column. Let's change it to 3 columns. And let's leave the gutter alone, and we'll talk about what a gutter is. And we'll leave the margins the same, and I'll add that 0.5 bleed. Okay. So as soon as I do that and hit enter, it puts it all the way through for all those for us. Okay, so now I'm going to click OK. Okay, so now I have Untitled 1 at the top, just like I do in Photoshop and Illustrator. I have those tabs. So I have Untitled 1, which is facing pages, and I have Untitled 2, which is not facing pages, and 3 columns. So right away you can see this has 1 column. This purple area is 1 big column for us. That 1 column, let me do this, see if I can. So this 1 column is Untitled 1. So let's go back here. So that's Untitled 1, which is here. So that's 1 column. And if you choose 3 columns or 2 columns, it creates this column for us. And this little space in between there is called a gutter. So you could change the size of your gutter and make a little bit more space in between your columns if you wanted to. But I use this option a lot because if I have text, I can just draw a text box and fill in this, and it makes it real easy for a reference for every page. Okay, so that's the difference between 1 column and 3 columns. And that's just reference. If we do preview on this, it doesn't actually show anything. So this is just for our benefit to actually design things. So as far as the user knows, Untitled 1 and Untitled 2 look exactly the same. We just have it set up differently for us so that we can use our tools a little better and be a little more efficient. Okay, so now let's go look at the facing pages. If you remember in the new document, we had an option called facing pages, and we checked it on 1 and we left it off 1. Okay, so we have facing pages on Untitled 1. So let's go to our page panel on the right side. Okay, so you see our page panel, and you can see I have 3 pages. Okay, so page 1, page 2, and page 3. So you can see they're facing pages because there's a spine in the middle, and I have a page on the left and a page on the right. So if I kind of scroll this over a little bit, you can see I have they're facing each other, right? So I have 1 page here and 1 page here, and they're both 8.5 by 11. So this is what's called a spread. So because it's spread between 2 pages. So if I were to draw a square from here to here, it would actually print on both pages. And InDesign does a great job of representing what it's going to look like as a spread. So this is like a magazine. When you have 2 pages that are together, you can start your type and have your picture go from 1 page to the next. Makes it real nice. Anytime like for a newsletter, you would probably do this as well. So I'm going to scroll up. Just use my scroll mouse, or you can click and drag your scroll bars. So this would be the front page of your newsletter, and then this would be the middle of your newsletter, and you could probably have another page that would be the back of your newsletter. That would be perfect. So it would be 1 page is 11.5 by 17. this would be the front, this would be the middle, and then you'd have another page that's the back. And that's mostly what I use InDesign for, are facing pages. But there are times that you want pages that are just stapled together, something like that. So let's go to pages, and you can see we unchecked facing pages here. So it's like we went to document and we did this. We unchecked facing pages. So you can see these pages are just in a row. They're not next to each other. They're not in a spread. They're just each individual pages. And this is great for depending on what your application is. So if we close our page panel down and just scroll down, you can see there's 3 separate pages. Um, and many times this is all you want. You want 3 separate pages that are going to be stapled, or they're going to be attached somehow that isn't going to be folded, isn't going to be part of a spread, and that's perfect. So that's kind of in a nutshell starting a file. There's a lot of options to know. If you're going to have a bleed, if you're not going to have a bleed, what your safe area is. If you're going to want to have do columns, if if you want a gutter in your columns that size. So the big thing that you really can't go back on, you can always change your bleed. You can always change your pages, but you can't change easily. You can change your facing pages, but it's not as easy as selecting the right thing first. So between facing pages and non-facing pages, that's really what you need to do. Really, the choice you need to make as you're creating your document. So facing pages or non-facing pages, and the number of columns. Now you can always come back and create guides for these similar to these columns, but it's really a lot easier if you do it here. So it's kind of an introduction to creating a document. In the next video, we're going to talk about inserting text, and then we'll actually get some pictures in here as well.